Across Texas, under the cover of darkness, a silent army advances. They number not in the hundreds, but in the millions. Feral hogs that are intelligent, adaptable, and explosively reproductive. By morning, they leave behind a trail of economic ruin, transforming months of agricultural labor into wreckage overnight. For decades, this plague spread almost unchecked, draining Texas agriculture of nearly $500 million each year, while much of the country looked on from a distance, often dismissing the crisis as a regional nuisance. But a quiet turning point finally emerged. Texas stopped fighting scattered skirmishes and declared a coordinated war. Instead of searching for a single miracle solution, the state mobilized technology, strategy, and sheer scale into a synchronized, multi-layered offensive. This is the story of how a biological invasion met its match, not through luck or spectacle, but through planning, coordination, and persistence that has begun, at last, to turn the tide. Let's meet the adversary. The feral hog is not a native species, but a man-made ecological catastrophe born from a 500-year-old mistake. European explorers and settlers introduced domestic pigs as a mobile food source, never imagining the long-term consequences. Over centuries, escapees, abandoned herds, and deliberate crossbreeding with imported European wild boars produced a hybrid superpest, larger, smarter, and far more destructive than anything that came before it. In the warm, resource-rich landscapes of the southern United States, this hybrid found paradise. Nowhere was that more true than in Texas, where vast open land allowed the population to explode past 2 million. These animals are not random pests, but a strategic, adaptive force. They learn farming schedules, avoid traditional traps, and reproduce so rapidly that local culls become meaningless. The war didn't begin with a declaration. It began with a sobering realization. Texas was losing. For years, the response was fragmented and futile. Farmers like J. Norman of Fannin County watched in disbelief as over 100 hogs poured into freshly planted cornfields, erasing an entire season's investment in minutes. Individual solutions, traps, hunting, fencing, offered the illusion of control, but little real relief. A farmer might remove 300 hogs, only to see the population rebound within months, as if nothing had changed. Hunting from the ground simply pushed the problem onto neighboring land, turning control efforts into a revolving door. This was not a failure of effort, but a failure of coordination. Texas was playing an endless game of whack-a-mole across 268,000 square miles, and the moles were winning. The hog's greatest advantage was the gaps in human strategy, because as long as the fight remained isolated, the invasion was unstoppable. The breakthrough was not a new weapon, but a new doctrine. Texas abandoned isolated skirmishes and embraced coordinated campaign warfare. The insight was brutally simple. Pressure had to be continuous and regional, leaving the enemy no safe ground to retreat to. Neighboring counties that once fought alone began synchronizing their efforts, aligning trapping, hunting, and surveillance into shared schedules that covered entire regions instead of scattered properties. Real-time communication networks followed, allowing rapid responses as herds shifted direction and adapted. For the first time, the gaps in the map were closed. This was more than improved management. It was a fundamental rethinking of the conflict. The hog population was no longer treated as countless local problems, but as a single, mobile enemy army, one that could only be confronted with a unified front. With coordination as the backbone, Texas deployed a layered arsenal of next-generation tools. First layer, intelligent traps. Gone are the simple cage traps. In their place are smart corral traps equipped with live streaming cameras and mobile connectivity. Farmers can watch from their phones as an entire sounder, hog family group, enters, waiting for the perfect moment to seal the gate with a tap. This technology allows for the removal of 20 to 30 hogs in a single decisive strike, not piecemeal. Second layer, aerial dominance. Companies like Helibacon turn multi-million-dollar helicopters into hunting platforms. At dawn, teams sweep across thousands of acres in hours, a task impossible for ground teams.
From the air, they gather critical intelligence, mapping bedding areas, tracking movement corridors, and executing rapid, large-scale culls in inaccessible terrain. Third layer, controlled chemical warfare. Texas approved the use of specialized war-grade poisons deployed with surgical precision. The process is a masterclass in behavioral manipulation. Hogs are trained over weeks to open specialized fortified bait stations. Only after they are conditioned is the toxic bait introduced. The result is the elimination of entire sounders with minimal risk to non-target species. Texas is no longer fighting only the hogs of today, but the herds of tomorrow. The most promising and controversial new front is reproductive control. Researchers are developing contraceptive baits designed to disrupt hog hormones and render them infertile, aiming not merely to cull numbers, but to collapse the population pyramid from within. By cutting off the cycle of explosive reproduction at its source, the strategy targets the invasion's long-term sustainability rather than its symptoms.
At the same time, technology is transforming the battlefield. Thermal imaging and surveillance drones now dominate night operations, turning hunters into precision units, capable of locating and eliminating entire sounders in total darkness. The war is becoming increasingly automated, increasingly intelligent, and increasingly relentless, an arms race where adaptation and innovation may finally decide the outcome. The results are measurable. In coordinated regions, hog populations have dropped by 60 to 70% within 2 years. Crop losses have fallen sharply. Places like Irving, Texas, where hogs roamed neighborhoods, have been largely cleared. An entire new industry has emerged around feral hog control, from trap manufacturing and thermal equipment sales to helicopter services and processing. What was a pure economic drain is evolving into a managed system. The lesson of Texas is not about killing pests. It's a case study in managing complex systemic ecological threats. There is no single solution, only a network of solutions. It proves that when faced with an exponential biological problem, the answer lies in coordinated human intelligence, layered technology, and the will to act not as individuals, but as a synchronized force. The war isn't over, but for the first time, Texas holds the strategic high ground. The battle for Texas is a blueprint for the future, where human expansion and invasive species collide. If this story of coordinated warfare against a biological invasion changed how you see human-wildlife conflict, subscribe to the Leviathan Project. We document the monumental systems, both built and biological, that humanity deploys to reshape its world. What other hidden wars should we cover? The fight against invasive lionfish? The Great Barrier Reef's restoration? Let us know in the comments. This is the Leviathan Project. See you at the next front line.